Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Here's Eddie Frederick.
So glad you can join us. Canada announces suspension of flights to all Caribbean destinations and Mexico between January 31st and April 30th. This story takes the lead in our 1040th edition of Caribbean Perspective for Monday 1st February 2021. Details after this break.
Did you know that your friends and family can now shop at the Food Fair from anywhere in the world and you can receive here in Grenada? The Food Fair and GrenadaMarket.com now makes it possible through secure online shopping and personalized customer service. Simply send your loved ones a list of your preferred items or let them fill an online basket and the items will be available for pickup or delivery. Visit GrenadaMarket.com or thefoodfair.gd today for more details. The new norm. Spread the news.
Welcome back. Canada's federal government has announced that the country's major airlines will suspend flights to all Caribbean destinations and Mexico between January 31st, 2021 and April 30th, 2021. More from our partners at Primetime Caribbean with Wendy Chateau.
The federal government is introducing new mandatory quarantine rules as they try to discourage international travel. This morning, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced Air Canada, WestJet, Sunwing, and Air Transat have agreed to suspend service to sun destinations right away and will be making arrangements with their customers who are in these regions now to organize flights home.
Government and Canada's main airlines have agreed to suspend service to sun destinations right away. Air Canada, WestJet, Sunwing, and Air Transat are canceling air service to all Caribbean destinations and Mexico starting this Sunday up until April 30th.
The Prime Minister said as soon as possible, the government will be introducing mandatory PCR testing at the airport for people returning to Canada, on top of the pre-boarding test already required. Travelers will then have to wait up to 3 days at an approved hotel for their test results at their own expense, which Trudeau said is expected to be more than $2,000. Those with a negative test will then be able to finish their 14-day quarantine at home with increased surveillance.
With the challenges we currently face with COVID-19, both here at home and abroad, we all agree that now is just not the time to be flying.
Canada has had a ban on non-essential travel into the country by anyone who isn't a citizen or permanent resident since March, but banning the flow of Canadians in and out of the country is a thornier task.
Trinidad and Tobago is considering acquiring the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which is now being hailed as a potential game changer in dealing with COVID-19. Measures are also being put in place to ensure that people with non-communicable diseases are among the first to be vaccinated. TV6's Renessa Cutting has the details from the Ministry of Health's press conference.
While vaccines like Pfizer have been shown to have over 90% efficacy, the Johnson & Johnson candidate garnered an 85% efficacy rating in preventing severe disease in a global Phase 3 trial. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which could be used in this country if approved by the World Health Organization, is formulated with just part of the COVID-19 virus as opposed to a weakened state of the living virus. The virus protein is then combined with another virus that can enter but cannot replicate in human cells, which means you cannot be infected with the COVID-19 virus. Thus far, no deaths have been reported with this vaccine, and there's yet another upside to this candidate.
It is a one-dose vaccine, which is, in terms of administration and getting persons to take it, it is a little more persons tend to be more compliant, so you don't have to come back in for a second time. So we are keeping an eye on it. We are possibly looking to have bilateral talks with them as well, as the days and weeks proceed. And if it goes into the COVAX facility and is approved by WHO, of course, we will get it through the COVAX as well.
According to the manufacturer, the vaccine has also shown protection against the new variants and can be stored in a regular refrigerator. But the chief medical officer says this country will only use vaccines approved by the WHO, and whichever vaccine we receive will be distributed according to priority need. So with the first shipment estimated sometime in March, the ministry has begun putting frameworks in place.
We have two strategies. So one is, as we speak, we have actually already received from NIPDEC the list of all persons who are on the CEDAR program. There's upwards of 80,000 people. So we have that list. What we're trying to do is create a master list of all the persons that will be eligible in the first phase of the vaccination drive. So we're looking at healthcare workers again, we're looking at persons with NCDs, we're looking at persons over 60. So we have written to the relevant ministries and regional health authorities that have that information to try to get it back as early as the end of next week.
The vaccines will also be offered through NCD and walk-in clinics. Renessa Cutting, TV6 News.
Let the people decide and let democracy prevail. That's the position of the Tobago Council of the People's National Movement on resolving the 6-6 tie in Monday's THA elections. More in this report.
In a statement this afternoon, the Council's political leader, Tracy Davidson Celestine, said she believes a return to the polls as soon as feasible is a straightforward solution and the only constitutional solution to the 6-6 tie, adding, "The PNM won't gamble with Tobago's future in a coin toss, as proposed by the PDP's deputy political leader, Assemblyman Fali Agustin, at the post-inauguration media conference on Thursday."
I want to say at this juncture that the casting of lot provides risk factors for everybody. And it's a risk that, as the leader and the candidate of my team for Chief Secretary, that I am prepared to take. A coin can be tossed and it can fall on the lot of the other side, which will mean that I'll be back to 4 more years as a minority member of the House.
Davidson Celestine says the PDP wants to bet on people's lives with the toss of a coin, and the PNM will have none of it. Agustin said this method is practical, but Davidson Celestine says, quote, "Fali continues to misspeak and is clearly not familiar with the THA Act. Our people deserve better. Democracy dictates that the people have the right to make this decision themselves. This is why the PNM, even with the popular vote, is willing to go back to the voters. We must let the people choose." She accuses Agustin of flip-flopping on legislative reform through the parliament and on his suggestion that the party with the popular vote should govern, along with what she calls his luck-and-chance approach to solving the deadlock. These signals, she says, raise major red flags about the PDP's ability to govern. She says certain steps must be taken to facilitate the return to the polls, but this is the path the PNM will support. The party won 51% of the votes cast on Monday. Commenting on the inability of the House to elect a presiding officer on Thursday due to the deadlock, she says this situation has revealed a fundamental defect in the THA Act, which can only be fixed through an amendment by the Parliament. Davidson Celestine concludes, this process will not be a hasty one, as it will involve the Parliament, the Elections and the Boundaries Commission, the Assembly, and the people of Tobago. Sharon Hamilton, TV6 News.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick.
Over in Guyana, Senior Counsel Roysdale Ford has castigated Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs Anil Nandlal, alleging that he's brought the Office of Attorney General into disrepute. HGP's Wendell Badri has some details.
The Shadow Minister of Legal Affairs in the National Assembly, Royce Dilford, Senior Counsel, has rebuked the Minister of Legal Affairs and Attorney General Anil Nandlal for what he deems as his incompetence, ineptitude, and deliberate attempt to mislead the nation in relation to a deportation order which was quashed by the Chief Justice on Wednesday. Senior Counsel Ford proffered the view that Mr. Anil Nandlal continues to pioneer new depths of incompetence as Attorney General. He further stated that it is a public shame that the senior law officer of the land would either be unaware of the laws governing the right of CARICOM citizens to enter and remain in Ghana, or would deliberately attempt to mislead the court and the nation. In a statement dispatched to the media on Friday, Ford condemned the hostility and contempt meted out to the Haitian nationals who were detained upon entering the country in 2020. Nandlal at that time said that the Haitians were victims of human trafficking and were using Ghana as a channel of distribution to move on to greener pastures. Ford rejected this notion while claiming that the treatment meted out to the nationals is reflective of the PPP regime's disregard for the rights of Africans, more so African Guyanese. He also said Mr. Nandlal is, by his continuing and persistent actions, attracting shame and disrepute to the office of the Attorney General of Ghana. Wendell Badgery, HGP Nightly News.
On Thursday morning last, Guyana's Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation Minister Hugh Todd furnished members of the National Assembly with an update on recent developments surrounding the detention of 12 Guyanese fishermen by the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. More in this HGP report with Wendell Badgery.
Minister Todd stated that his ministry continues to engage the international community with the aim of bringing about an amicable resolution to the issue through the use of diplomacy. The minister further revealed that he acceded to a virtual meeting with his Venezuelan counterpart, Minister of the People's Power for Foreign Affairs of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, Jorge Arriaza, on Monday.
At his request, I had a virtual meeting with my Venezuelan counterpart, Foreign Minister Jorge Arriaza, on January 25th. This was to discuss the detention of the fishing vessels and the crew, as well as the status and their release.
Meanwhile, in a statement purportedly emanating from the Venezuelan foreign minister, he is quoted as denouncing the false accusations and misrepresentations made by the Cooperative Republic of Ghana. Arriaza further justified the actions of the Venezuelan Navy by stating that the detention of the Guyanese crew and vessels were executed in full respect of current legislation, while guaranteeing due process for the detainees. Arriaza further allegedly condemned statements in support of Ghana, labeling them as, and I quote, a series of absurd and erratic objections to the recent promulgation of a Venezuelan territorial ordinance decree that exclusively postulates the formulation of public policies for the maritime development in exclusive and uncontroversial territory of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, end quote. Notwithstanding this, Minister Todd, in his statement in Thursday's sitting of the National Assembly, proffered that the country was grateful for the support it has received from the international community.
We are encouraged that the international community is seized by this matter and has encouraged Venezuela to release our Guyanese nationals and their fishing vessels and to desist from actions that violate international law and threaten the peace and stability of the region.
On Wednesday, the United States, through its acting assistant secretary for U.S. Department State of Bureau of Western Hemisphere Affairs, Julie Chung, condemned what it deemed as Maduro's intimidation, referring to the detention of the Guyanese crew and vessels on Thursday last. It also called for a peaceful resolution of the maritime boundary controversy between the two countries. CARICOM, the OAS, Trinidad and Tobago, Belize, and Brazil are among a host of countries that have thrown their support behind Ghana, while calling for the immediate release of the Guyanese crew and vessels. On Thursday, Canada added its voice to the calls for the safe release of the 2 Guyanese fishing vessels and crew members detained by Venezuela since January 21, 2020. And I quote, Canada supports Ghana in calling for the immediate release of 2 Guyanese vessels that were detained by the Maduro regime. We repeat our call for international law to be respected, the Canadian government stated. The coalition opposition has unequivocally expressed its support to the government of the day on the border controversy matter between Ghana and Venezuela, with its most recent demonstration of this being a meeting between Minister Todd and APNU AFC Shadow Minister of Foreign Affairs, Amanza Walton Desir, where she registered concern for the welfare of the detainees. The two members of parliament expressed the view that there is need for a bipartisan approach between government and the opposition on matters related to the Guyana-Venezuela border controversy. Wendell Badry, HGP Nightly News.
Did you know that your friends and family can now shop at the Food Fair from anywhere in the world, and you can receive here in Grenada? The Food Fair and GrenadaMarket.com now make it possible through secure online shopping and personalized customer service. Simply send your loved ones a list of your preferred items or let them fill an online basket, and the items will be available for pickup or delivery. Visit GrenadaMarket.com or thefoodfair.gd today for more details. The new norm. Spread the news.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please continue to log on to CaribbeanPerspective.com for more daily news and more.